Hi, welcome to Mondays with Michelle, a sanctuary where we unite to inspire hope and peace through engaging discussions about mental health, relationships, and parenting. I'm Michelle, your guide through the sanctuary. I'm a mental health therapist with over 14 years of experience, an aspiring author currently navigating the book proposal process, a peacemaker, and an advocate for those without a voice. So, today we are going to be talking about gratitude and the Japanese concept of Naikan. So, I'm looking forward to this conversation with all of you today. These things are deep and meaningful to my heart. So, we'll start with an affirmation card. I really like these cards. I have several different kinds or decks that just have something inspiring to give you a little message for the day. So, this one is perfect for appreciation. These are "You Are Awesome" cards, and my apologies if that shows up backwards on the camera. But I drew one before our broadcast today, and I got "Your potential is unlimited. I am in awe of your many talents." So I actually bought this specific deck to express appreciation to some of my volunteers when I was running for the state legislature where I live. Part of why I liked them is because the message and purpose of them is to show appreciation to others and celebrate people in your life who you think is awesome. They actually come with these cool little envelopes so you can give them to someone, which I just think is really neat. So that's what I did. That's why I bought them. I still have some left over so I can still use them and share a message with you today. On that note, like I said, gratitude is something that's important and meaningful to me. I tend to incorporate it into my daily routine as much as possible. So, one thing that I do is identify 10 things that I'm grateful for every day. And these can include people, places, and things. So, we'll be going over 5 different ways to express your gratitude towards others in the world, kind of developing what they refer to as an attitude of gratitude. And the first one of those is simply a gratitude journal. So, this is what I aspire to do every day with my own personal life. Is in my journal every evening, I like to write down 10 things, like I said, people, places, or things that I'm grateful for in my life. So that may include people like my parents, my son. It may include animals, my dog's hanging out behind me. So I may express appreciation and gratitude to have a loyal companion. It may include things. This week, where I live, we're in a heat warning, an excessive heat warning. So it's going to be, I think, the heat index is going to get up potentially to 108 degrees. So I'm definitely grateful for things like air conditioning to keep it cool and bearable in the heat outside. I might be grateful for my water so I can stay hydrated throughout the day. We have some pretty good tap water here. Um, so it's definitely something that we can be grateful for. You may be grateful for a candle burning nearby that we can light. Specifically, they help me improve my focus and concentration. So I like to have a candle lit. We can even do that now. Light a candle and let it burn throughout our day. throughout our time together. So that's an easy part. It doesn't have to be 10 things. I think I read that in a book that it was encouraged to write down 10 things you're grateful for every day, and it just stuck with me. But if you only have time for 5 things you're grateful for, obviously that's better than nothing. So, whatever you have time to do, I just encourage you to start a gratitude journal and write down those things that you're grateful for in your life. And then the second way that we can express gratitude is expressing appreciation. That one's pretty easy. It's just saying thank you often. If somebody does something kind, it doesn't even have to be a huge act. No, it doesn't have to be grand gestures or anything like that. It could even just be something small. Make sure that you do say thank you and you appreciate what people do for you. So, even something like somebody holds the door open for you so you can enter, obviously say thank you for that right away and make sure you are expressing appreciation regularly. The third thing we can do to build an attitude of gratitude is gratitude cards or letters, like thank you cards or letters. So, Hallmark, your local store, they're going to have cards that you can look through and buy. So just you can even pick up an entire pack of multiple thank you cards and just keep them on hand. That way, you can just write a quick thank you message, being specific. You don't just want to say thank you want to say what you're grateful for. So, I don't know. Thank you for helping me move. Thank you for taking time out of your day to spend with me. Whatever you're grateful for, try to be as specific as possible and just pick up a simple thank you card and throw it in the mail. People really appreciate getting handwritten letters because it's just not done as much anymore. So when they get something personal from you, it's going to be meaningful to them. So try to do that whenever possible. And then the fourth way we can develop an attitude of gratitude is through meditation. So, again, you don't have to take a long time to do this, but spend 5 to 10 minutes every day meditating on the positives from your day. So for example, before I write my 10 things, I may, spend 5 to 10 minutes, set my timer for 5 to 10 minutes, and spend time meditating, really reflecting on my day to see what did I appreciate throughout my day. And then that helps to be able to write those down too. And then the fifth way to express gratitude is just expressing regular appreciations. This is actually something that we incorporate in couples therapy, like marriage counseling, is every day there's a technique where you share 3 things that you appreciate about your partner. So they can figure out what works for them. Maybe it works best to do it first thing in the morning when you just wake up. Maybe that's when they have time together. Maybe it's best to do it during the family dinner, just kind of go around the table and express 3 things you appreciate about each other. And then, just another potential time that works for people is right before bed. So maybe the kids go to sleep and you have a few minutes to yourselves and you can reflect on your day and what you appreciated the other one did. So, all 5 of those things, the journal, saying thank you through verbal expression, a thank you card or letter, meditation, and then those daily appreciations are things that we can do to cultivate an attitude of gratitude. And then that will move us to a deeper technique called Naikan. So, what that is, it's a Japanese term. It's a technique they use. A lot of times it's used in counseling. I believe there are even Naikan like counseling centers and retreats where they really focus on um, the self reflection that also cultivates this sense of gratitude, like deep gratitude and appreciation, not only for the people closest to us, but people who are involved in our lives in like this web of connections that's present in our world when we're not even necessarily aware of it. So it does definitely increase our sense of awareness of how many people are truly involved in our life every day and how everyone in our community really plays an important role in our lives and just keeping our communities going. Um, so a piece of Nikon is reflecting deeply on this whole like spider web of connections. There's this concept called 6 degrees of freedom. And it resonates with me. It seems to be so true because no matter where I go in the world, it seems like I always run into somebody I know, which is very odd and unusual, but it definitely happens. So, what that theory posits is, with every person, like we know all 8 billion people in this world through 6 people. I've actually been in a training where they did this. They used Kevin Bacon as an example and was able to pull it down and how Kevin Bacon could be connected to people in the rural area where I live. And it was just fascinating. And I think it was less than 6. I think it was like 4 people away, which was very interesting. So we really are connected to everyone across the planet just through 6 people. This person knows this person who knows this person, etc., until we all know everyone. So that's one part of being able to reflect deeper on how we're all connected with one another. But another way is to think about the complex processes we have. I use the example of a can of corn. How common is that to have, canned goods hanging out in your pantry or your cupboard? Probably somewhere in your house, you may have a can of corn. So, have you ever thought about and considered how many people are involved in getting that can of corn on your shelf? So we can go through that. You know, Corn starts with farmers. That's a big crop, primary crop in the state where I live. Um, so it starts with farmers. The farmers have to buy the seed, hopefully from a trusted seed company. So there were people who had the seed available for the farmers. The farmers then get in their tractors to plant the seeds in their fields. So have you thought about what it takes to get a tractor? People have to manufacture those. It could even be multiple manufacturing sites, each one making their own part. And then somebody has to assemble all the parts into a tractor. And then there are retailers where the farmer had to go to the retailer to pick out his tractor and then be able to get that home to his farm. So we already have a lot of people involved, and we're only to planting the seed. So the farmer plants a seed up and down his rows, typically in the spring. And then there tends to be workers in the fields who help tend to the crops while it grows. So they may do things called roguing. Children like myself, I detasseled. Granted, that wouldn't be the corn that we eat on a regular basis. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of people working in the fields to do those things. We have to make sure we water the crops. So there's irrigation that's installed and there's upkeep. And they may even have to call a repairman to come and fix their irrigation pipes if something breaks down during the season. So then you have more people involved in this can of corn. But finally, harvest is here. Then they have more machinery. They have to drive the combine that also had to be manufactured and gotten to the farm. So there's also gas that runs those. And instead of me going through this whole process with that, just think like, what does it take to get gasoline to our gas stations, and how many people are involved in that process? But they have the combine. It takes quite a bit of fuel to be able to run the farm equipment. So they have that. And then they're going up and down the fields again, harvesting the corn. And then it gets put on a trailer, gets put in the truck to be able to go to the factory. The factory has a lot of employees working there, typically assembly line things, to make sure the corn is processed and prepared, and then it's canned, it's labeled and packaged. Then it gets on another truck and is transported to the store. Then there's more employees at the store who take it from the boxes and stock the shelves so it's easily found by the customers. So then you're able to walk into the store, grab a cart, which was more than likely brought inside by another employee from the cart corral outside. So another person was involved even in just making sure you had a cart available. And then you're able to go to the shelf and put it in your cart. And then there's another person. There's a cashier who's going to check you out. And then you can drive home and you can put that can of corn on your shelf until you're ready to make it for dinner. So how many people is that involved in one simple can of corn at your local grocery store? A lot. More than I can even technically count, because there are just so many variables and so many different people involved in so many different places. So what happens if we stop and we start to recognize just how we're all connected and how we help keep our communities going, even all the different people it takes to stock an entire grocery store? How many people were involved in having fresh produce, meat, your breads, pastas, frozen goods? How many people does it take to even stock one local store? It's a lot. And it really shows how we need each other and how we rely on each other without even realizing it every day. That's the thing about gratitude, is we start to pay attention to things that typically we don't think about and we take for granted. How often do we take for granted that you can just run down the street to the local grocery store and pick up what you need to feed your family? When you stop and think about it and all the complexities involved, it's pretty amazing. So then the other part, probably the main part of Naikan, is asking yourself 3 questions to reflect on. The first question is, what have I received from this person or situation? So this is when you get to acknowledge the care, kindness, and support that you receive from the people in your life. I don't know, if you think about your parents, what have you received? Let's just focus on mom. Let's see, just kind of going back, your mom had to endure normally the pretty painful and uncomfortable process of pregnancy. 9 months of growing you inside of, the womb, and then going through childbirth. When you're little, there's not much that you can do. So you have to rely on mom to meet your basic needs, make sure you're being fed regularly and your diapers being changed, you're being played with, there's some fun and enjoyment. You have to be protected growing up from, dangers. You're taught morals and values. And then as you age, it just gets more and more. What have you received from your mom, if your mom is available or thinking about past, earlier on in your life? What all did your mom do for you? What care, kindness, and support did you receive from her? And you can do that for every person. You could do that for your dad. You could do that for your grandparents, your aunts, uncles, your partner, your friends. You can even go to all those different people that I named. What have the farmers done to support you? Do they grow the food that you eat? What have your teachers done for you? Now, there's just so many people that you can reflect on. And there's more people than we realize who give us care, kindness, and support. So starting to reflect on that. And then the second question is, what have I given to this person or situation? So if I delve into the mom example, what have you given back? How have you helped your mom? Like, maybe you've bought her birthday gifts or Christmas gifts. Maybe you give some time to them. Maybe you give them a phone call or eat dinner with them. Spend time going for a visit. But really think about the personal contributions that you make. Expanding it in the same way. How have you contributed to not only your mom, your dad, your extended family, your spouse or partner, your children, but how have you contributed to your entire community? What have you given your community? Do you spend time volunteering? Maybe you help at your local church. Maybe you help in other ways in your community. Maybe you volunteer at nonprofits. But consider and reflect on, how have you contributed to all the people in your life? Relationships are reciprocal. So it involves that give and take. We can't just give to other people. We have to also receive, and vice versa. We can't just receive from those around us, but we also have to give. And again, this doesn't have to be grand gestures. It can be something simple and doable. Like maybe your contribution to the world today is holding the door open for somebody as you enter your local grocery store, your post office, wherever you need to go today, whatever errands need to be run. Maybe you're going to do something like contribute a few dollars to your favorite charity. And maybe you're going to do something bigger to contribute to those you care about. Whatever you do, just spend some time reflecting on it every day of how I've given back to those you care about in your life and those around you. And then the third question can probably be the hardest question, the most challenging. People don't want to sit with uncomfortable things, typically, and this is sitting with some uncomfortable realities about yourself. The third question is, what troubles or difficulties have I caused this person or situation? So let's think back to mom. What sort of troubles have you caused your mom? Maybe as a teenager, you acted out, you got in trouble, maybe you didn't listen, you were a little oppositional and told mom no. Um, Maybe you ran short on your monthly income and you had to call mom and ask for some money, kind of taken away from her livelihood and stability. So, really accept responsibility for the troubles or difficulties that you've caused and think about how you can make amends for those things. Um, Accepting responsibility isn't only apologizing, like saying I'm sorry, but it also involves a making amends sort of process where you do something to try to make the situation right. If you did borrow money from your mom when you were younger, maybe you pay that back, and that's your amends making. If you were oppositional as a teenager and didn't always listen, then maybe, back to cards. They have apology cards. I'm sorry. Maybe you buy her a card and take her out to dinner one night. Just making amends for those troubles and difficulties you've caused. What troubles or difficulties have you caused other people in your life? So, your dad, your extended family, your partner, spouse, friends. Did friends take time away from their loved ones to listen to your problems, to let you vent? Make sure you're accepting responsibility for that piece. And if they did so, then make sure that reciprocal nature that you're taking time out of your day to be able to hold space for them too when they're having some troubles or difficulties. So that's Naikan. It's a pretty cool process. Um, like I said, it's used in therapy. You can really delve into it more during actual workshops or retreats where you really spend time reflecting and writing about these things. But, just in our day to day basis, we can incorporate it into our life too. So I want you to pause for a moment and create an intention for enhancing gratitude in your daily life. What do you want to incorporate? So, just a reminder, we've got the 5 different things you can do to express gratitude: the journal, expressing appreciation, giving a thank you card or letter, meditating on gratitude, and daily appreciations with those you care about in your life. And we have the Naikan process. So spend a minute reflecting on how you would like to incorporate this in your daily life and just jot it down. So I'll give you a minute now to do that. All right. Now we can add to that intention by spending some time reflecting. So, our weekly reflection is pause for a moment to write down 10 people, places, or things you are grateful for in your life. Once you've made your list, take some time to reflect on the 3 Naikan questions while being gentle and patient with yourself. Like I said, that especially that third question where you're really accepting responsibility for the troubles or difficulties you've caused others can be tough to sit with. So be patient with yourself, acknowledging no one's perfect. I haven't met a perfect human yet. So be gentle and understanding with yourself. Forgive yourself. And then consider the following 3 questions. What have I received from this person or situation? What have I contributed to this person or situation? And what troubles or difficulties have I caused this person or situation? So, it's now time for Q&A. So, if you have any questions about gratitude or Naikan, make sure to comment on those. Everyone should have access to be able to comment on the podcast post. So, feel free to pop any questions that you have in the comments section. And then next week, we will be talking about creativity and mental health. So, one of my favorite topics. So, I'm looking forward to that one. If you have any questions about creativity or any questions in general about mental health, relationships, or parenting, put them in an email. The email address is hopepiecetogether@gmail.com, and I will incorporate them into the show. All right, friends, we made it through. Just a quick recap. We were able to talk about gratitude. There are 5 ways to build an attitude of gratitude. Start and begin a gratitude journal. Express appreciation by saying thank you to those around you. Write thank you cards or letters and send them to the people you appreciate, including specific examples and details. Meditation, spend 5 to 10 minutes meditating daily on the positives from your day. And then regular daily appreciations where you share 3 things you appreciate about your partner or other people involved in your life every day, so you can integrate that into your routine. And then the 3 main questions to consider in relationship to Naikan are: what have I received from this person or situation? What have I given this person or situation? And what troubles or difficulties have I caused this person or situation? All right. Well, hopefully you enjoyed the conversation today. We do this every Monday. So please join me again next Monday for Mondays with Michelle. Thank you so much. Have a great week.